Howdy. Today we're gonna be doing um, something a little different. I'm always mixing it up, but we're gonna talk specifically about high level, super high level hooks, and decision making with using your hooks, what hooks to buy, etc., etc. So that being said, I just I don't want to make it too complicated. I just kind of want to go through um, the hooks that I use. I'm not concerned with the hooks that the pros use. This is just what I use. So let's just start with what I call the offset round bend. So if you look here, this is the Gamakatsu offset round bend. Now, it's available either from Gamakatsu, or you can get a copy of it from Academy. The Academy brand is fine. It's half the price, and the only time when it's an issue is if you're using braided line. For whatever reason, obviously, well, it's not obvious to everybody, but braided line has virtually no stretch, and so it puts more force on the hook and it bends out, and it shows its lack of strength. The Academy brand does versus the Kamikatsu. The Gamakatsu, I also think, holds the hook point longer. Those are the two things. But the Academy's half the price. So what I do is I have one box that's labeled for me, and then I have one box that's for my clients. And basically, the one for my clients is all Academy. One for me is all Gamakatsu. And there's two ways of looking at it. You could say, hey, I want my clients to catch all the fish, and I want that hook point to stay good, and I'm going to give them Gamakatsu. But the other way to look at it is that they're going to get hung up all the time, and you're going to lose a lot of hooks. So I'd rather them be cheap. And not only that, but I keep a hook file constantly in my boat, so I'm always sharpening my hook. And the hook file that I use is, let's just look it up, because a lot of people don't know which one's the best. This one right here, Bass Pro Shops Diamond Edge, $7. That's a really good one. So, okay, we've talked about the offset round bend, Kamikatsu versus Academy. Gamakatsu is a premium hook. Like I said, it keeps the hook point. It's strong. It's really good. I like the offset round bend because it has this offset, thus the name, and it helps seat the worm on here better when you Texas frigate. You don't have to use that. You could use a couple other ones. You could use a straight shank worm hook. This is more efficient because it lacks an offset, so it's more efficient in terms of force. It's just a single line here instead of that break. The other one that you can use is a EWG. This is the EWG. I like this. I don't use it very often, but I have used it, which is why I'm including it in this series. Or not this series, this video. But the main thing with this is that the hook eye is directly in line with the hook point. Those make one line rather than them being, offset from each other. Basically, these aren't on the same line. They're parallel lines, but it's not on the same. This is all on the same. So that's the most efficient hook setting that you can have. So that one's really good. I don't like, I just, my preference is to use the offset round bend. If you're going to use the straight shank, what you need to do to keep it in the bait is either have this little thing right here that's like a keeper that keeps your bait on there, or you take a toothpick and you put it through there. So that's kind of, so we have the offset round bend versus the EWG versus the straight shank. Those are the first things. What sizes do I like in the offset round bend? I like a 3/0. I like a 4 and 5/0. And I like a 2/0. I'm starting to like the 2/0 more now than the 3/0. The 3/0's just what I would probably get the most of is the 3/0 because I use it so much. Most size baits, they do well with the 3/0. The 2/0 I like more for clear water. It's just really super, super stealthy and subtle. It's just small profile. And I want to use the smallest hook I can get away with while still making it so that the length of the bait is not too much to where they just bite the tail of the bait all the time and they never get the hook in their mouth. So the size is important for that reason. Also, you could use light wire hooks. You could use, instead of really thick hooks, you use a light wire hook, and they sell those. So that's another option, But I just want, here's the thing. I had this conversation the other day, but this is really what it's about, is how does a fish know that your lure is a reel? So we all of us see tank demonstrations of baits, and they look super real. So it's not the bait. They can't tell that the bait's not real, in my opinion. And plus, with bait scented, all that, right? They can't tell it's real until they bite it, or it's not real until they bite it. That's what I think. So either that. So what are the things that they can tell? We have a line, we have a weight, and we have a hook. So how can I make each one of those as small as possible? The first thing, even though this is not about weights, this is about hooks, is the weight needs to be tungsten because it's super dense and you can use less material to get down to where you're going. So it's going to be more compact. That's the first thing. The second thing is the hook. So you want to make it light wire or you want to scale down the size. The other thing is the line. If I can get away with throwing, the lightest I'll ever throw on like a Carolina rig, for example, is going to be like a 12-pound. I mean, I don't like to throw it on a 10-pound personally. But I'll throw jerk baits on like an 8-pound. I'll throw drop shots on like a 6-pound. I mean, those are the whole point is that I'm trying to throw as light as a line as possible so that the three items that they know a fake from real from is I'm eliminating those. That's the main thing. Number one, that little tip right there is 100% the difference. That's major. That's like, I shouldn't even be saying that because I'm giving people too much information. So it's your job or your decision what you're going to do with that information. So we talked about the offset round bend. We talked about the EWG. We talked about the straight shank. Let's talk about maybe drop shot hooks. So let's look here. By the way, I'm just a fan of Gamakatsu in general. That's what I like. I have confidence that it will always work. I use this Gamakatsu drop shot split shot hook right here. And I throw it in a 2/0. That is the size I throw it in. The other one is a 1/0. I prefer the 1/0. It's smaller. But a lot of times there's a bigger bait and I need to go to a 2/0. If I can, I will throw the 1/0. I would throw smaller than that if I could. But there is a absolute cutoff to where the size of the bait is such that the hook is too small. Because the fish aren't going to get a hold of it. So you have to think about, a lot of times they attack it head on, so you don't worry that much about it. But a lot of times they attack it from the side or from the back, or it just depends on how they get it. But so yeah, definitely the 2/0 for the drop shot, or the 1/0. I'd probably get equal of both, and I try to throw a 1/0. But the 1/0's really good. It excels for throwing small plastic minnows, like little small zoom flukes. Like not the super fluke, the little fluke. Not the tiny fluke, the fluke it's called. So the Gamakatsu drop shot hook, we talked about that. Um, the next thing that I saw that I really recommend is these. This is the weedless drop shot split shot hook. You need these. You need to keep these in your boat. So I would use this for wacky rigging. Or I would use it for, I would use it for the Nico rig. Anytime I'm flipping to heavy cover. If I'm not in heavy cover and I don't need to worry about that hook point being exposed, I will not throw it because that's introducing the fourth variable. The three variables we talked about with the line, the weight, and the hook. If I put that little weed guard on here, that's introducing another variable that shows them it's not real. So I don't want that if I don't need it. Also, I throw on a drop shot, But with the heavy cover too, it helps. You don't have to worry about that fourth variable because the heavy cover kind of breaks up the profile of that hook to begin with. Because let's say you're pulling it through weeds, there's weeds everywhere, and it's hard for them to really see through the weeds to see the hook, in the first place, or tree like wispy tree branches or whatever. What else? We talked about the drop shot hook. We talked about the worm hook. Talked about the three things that we want the fish to not see. Let's talk about treble hooks. This is a really good one. Really, really good one. This is important. This is the main thing with treble hooks that I'm going to talk about. First of all, the ones I use are the mustads because they're more cost effective, but they're still really good. Yeah. KVD Elite. You could also, I do the owners a lot. I do the owners a lot too. Owners or mustad. Here's the owner stinger. Yeah, ST36, that's good. Whole point is that basically you have two types. You have a round bend like this, where this is just a nice curvature here. It's kind of traditional in the curvature, and then you have a this is their triple grip, and you will see that this angle here is such that that hook point is more towards the eye as compared to this. This is a parallel line here, or these are parallel lines. This is more in line. So what that does is that when the fish swats at this one, the hook point is further away from the shank, so they have a better chance of getting pinned, or not getting pinned. They have a better chance of like catching it and getting it stuck. But then this one helps them stay pinned because basically it's pointed inward so that it's harder for the fish to shake off. So there's advantages to both. I am partial to the round bend. So that's just my preference. You have to pick what you're willing to do without. If you don't, if you're not worried about fish swatting at it, and, you think you catch them, throw this one. If you're like, hey, these fish may be finicky, throw this one. I mean, you just have to see what you like. I like the round bend. So we've talked about trebles, round versus like the triple grip. Okay. Oh, okay. okay, let's talk about the variation on the Nico hook. Going back to the Nico, right? These are like weird. They're not, I was showing you the weedless small little drop shot looking hook. You can use that, or you can use for the Nico. You can use the actual Nico hook, which is this one right here. This is their G finesse, and it's just like an elongated hook. It's pretty low profile, and there's nothing fancy about it. It's just a little longer, and people use it for the Nico rig, or they use it for wacky. It's just different. I don't know the exact advantages or disadvantages of having either one. Some people say, I want to use as big a hook as I can get away with. Some people say that. I'll never be that person. I understand why they say that, but that's not me. So, yeah, you can use either one, whatever one you're comfortable with. But I prefer the small little one, if I can get away with it. The main thing with rigging this that I need to point out with this hook specifically is that, well, actually for both hooks, to be honest, is that basically with the Nico rig, if you're familiar with the Nico rig, let's look it up for people who don't know what that is. So let's look up Nico rig. This is the Nico rig. So basically what happens is you have a nail weight in the end of the bait. In the fat part of the bait, you have a nail weight. You have a band in the middle, slightly offset off of the middle a little bit, and then you have the hook. So if you notice, the hook point is pointed upwards. This weight is going to make the bait glide in just like so, and the hook's going to follow. And so if the fish attacks it, on the fall, like it's falling towards them, and they grab it, you want their mouth to come up around the hook point, like this, like over the top of it. If it's turned around and the hook point is facing down, when they grab it, it's not going to stick. So the way that you orient the hook is super, super critical for the Nico rig to function properly. Number one. See, they're showing a drop shot hook here. You can use drop shot hook. You can use this Nico hook, whatever. But the main thing is that hook point is oriented like so. Let's see what else. We talked about the Nico rig. We talked about the drop shot, weedless and not weedless. We talked about the offset round bend, flipping hooks. We haven't talked about flipping hooks. Sometimes I use this VMC. That's a good one. Also, let's see here. The Gamakatsu, there's the Gamakatsu super heavy, and there's the Gamakatsu standard duty. So this is the super heavy cover. I think they also have a heavy cover. Let's see exactly what they have. Gamakatsu flipping. Gamakatsu flipping. Gamakatsu. How about we just type in flipping hook. That doesn't seem to be working. You gotta be kidding me. Okay, yeah. Perfect. So for the flipping hooks, the main one that I use 90% of the time is the Gamakatsu Finesse Heavy Cover. The Finesse Heavy Cover. The reason is because it's lighter wire, and I fish a lot in clear water, so I prefer the lightest wire I can get away with. Here is the heavy cover, and here's the super heavy cover. So you have 3 tiers: finesse, heavy, and super heavy. Each one has its place. Obviously, the super heavy you'd use in really matted vegetation or something where you just gotta winch this beast out of there. The heavy cover you may use most of the time, but for me with the super clear water, I think it makes a difference. I prefer to use the finesse heavy. And Gamakatsu is a good brand. It's got a good little hook keeper on there. It's just real standard good stuff. See, they say baits on 8 to 12 pound line. Now, I'm not 100% with that. To me, I would use it on 15 for flipping. And most people flip with 20. Some people flip 25. Some people 65 pound braid. Some people, But the flipping that I do here in clear water is going to be on this light wire hook, and it's going to be on like 15 pound test. So that's the thing. So there's the 3 tiers for that type of hook. And like I said, with the trebles, I use owner or mustad. But if I can do everything Gamakatsu, I will. It's just super expensive, but I like it. It holds the hook point more. I'm trying to think what other hooks. I use stinger hooks for my spinner baits. That is okay. This is great information here. Stinger hooks, man. I'm on a roll. So let's type in stinger hooks. This wouldn't be complete without this conversation. So here's the deal. You have a stinger. They call this the open eye. All right. Basically, what happens is, trailer hooks. Trailer hooks. Is that what it is? Yeah. Perfect, dude. Perfect. This is the secret right here. So this is one option. They're called their SP trailer hook for your spinnerbait. You put on the back, and basically what it does is if the fish are short striking, they're not getting it very good, you can put a trailer hook on there, and they'll at least grab the back hook, and you got them. So you just loop it over to the normal factory hook for the spinnerbait. So you got 2 hooks basically. If you go this option, basically what it is this is like a tubing. It's similar to heat shrink tubing. It's really like a rubber protective little cover for this hook eye, and basically you pierce that with the factory hook from below. You pierce it and go through it, and what it does is it keeps that on there so that it's not flopping all over and it doesn't come off the other hook. It kind of, the friction between the factory hook and this rubber piece helps this trailer hook stay. So what happens is that if you go with this, which is what they sell a lot of in the store, it doesn't swing freely. It's pretty locked in there because of the friction of that little rubber piece. So what happens if it's not oriented properly with respect to the fish? If your spinnerbait's going like this and this thing is stuck in position, the fish may not, it's not a may not, the fish won't get it good. And it's such a sad thing that they sell this, because it's not sad that they sell this. Some people like this, but it's sad that they don't have the traditional trailer hooks like they used to have as much, and they're not as popular because they are far better. And let me show you what I mean by the traditional. So they may not even show it here. Let's type in spinnerbait trailer hook. Yeah. This is the real deal right here, ladies and gentlemen. This is the spinnerbait trailer hook. Basically, what they do here is they sell you a piece of heat shrink tubing with the trailer hook. And so what you do is you cut this like a little eighth of an inch or whatever it is, and you take your factory hook, you put it through the hook eye. Don't even do anything with the heat shrink tubing, and you put it through the hook eye, and then you go over the tip of the factory hook, and you slide the heat shrink tubing, and it'll go over the barb, and the just because the barb sticks out a little bit from the hook, it will keep that heat shrink from popping off. So you have to kind of push the heat shrink over it, but once it's over, it won't come back the other way because that barb is blocking it from doing so. And basically what happens is you have the heat shrink just moving freely on the hook, and so it's not pinning the hook in one position. And so the hook is moving freely with the spinnerbait moving freely, and so it's way more likely to be in a good position for the bass to get a hold of. No question at all. I challenge you to argue me on this. This is the real deal. So I would say that no question. Yeah. So the stinger, or you'd call it the trailer hooks. That's the difference. Make sure you get the good one. But yeah, the way I want to close this video is I want to emphasize one more time, just in case you missed it. There are 3 things that tells a fish that your bait's not real. The line size, the hook size, that's 2, the weight size. So consider that next time you go out, because it makes a huge difference, especially in clear water. Even in stained water, they feel line size. I've watched bass feel line size. I've watched them swim up and turn next to the line, and they could feel like the water pushing. They feel, first of all, what it is they have, and on their sides they have like little pores that go from their face all the way back to their tail, and those pores, they basically, it's almost like that little toy that you played with when you were a kid. It's like a bed of metal pins. It's like a little rectangular box of a bed of metal pins, and you press your hand in there, and it takes a perfect imprint of your hand, and all those pins go down one by one. Well, basically, the bass, its skin works the same way, and so anytime something pushes a signature through water, it goes into each one of these receptors, and it paints a picture of what that object's profile is. So if you have a big line size, that's not like normal, and the fish will swim up to it, and it could feel that on its side. I've watched it happen bed fishing. It's freaking incredible. So watch out for that. The hook, the weight size also. A lot of times fish chase the weight on the way down, and people think that that's good. I want them to be focused on my bait and my bait only. I don't want the disturbance of the weight all the time. I want to get as small as the weight that I can, that they can't see. I'm going to go with tungsten always. Like I said, it's more dense so that there's less material. And then, the light wire hook. I'm going to go with the small hook, not too small to where the bass can't get in their mouth because they got mostly bait and not hook. But I'm going to go small, and then I'm also going to light wire. And those 3 things, if you remember that, you're going to catch more fish. Guarantee you, that's a high level pro technique right there. So hope you enjoyed this. I try to be as thorough as possible and keep it very straightforward. If I missed anything, I apologize. I'm doing my very, very best to put out good content, and it really means a lot to me. So enjoy. Let me know, if you have any feedback or comments for me. Really just interested to hear. So, just keep tuning in. Hopefully I can put out some new stuff. I'm trying to put out a video every day, every other day, just depending on my schedule. Sometimes I go weeks without putting anything out. It's just, I'm kind of on a roll right now, and I'm really focused on my fishing. And, if I'm not able to get on the water, why not make a video? It's going to get me closer to my goals. So thank you so much, and enjoy.